Hello, friends, and welcome back to the show. I'm here with an incredible friend of mine. His name is Mo-issa. He's an author, speaker, entrepreneur. He is calling in all the way from Ghana, believe it or not. Yes, I do have international friends. It's so cool. Not only that, but I got to meet Mo about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, when he started his journey of writing this incredible memoir that we're about to get into. But it's not just about his memoir, it's also about the art of writing a memoir, which is incredible, and how difficult this has been to bring out into the world. But not only that, he persisted. He came to me for help. He came to others for help, but also he showed up in incredible ways. Mo, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. I'm excited to get into your book. Yeah, man. Thank you for taking the time to join me today.
No, thanks. Thanks to you, Hussein, for this opportunity to discuss my book. And again, before we start, I want to say thank you for all the help that you've given me as well during this publication, to get this book out in the world, as you said, because it's been a long journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And I'm a believer in that it does take a village to raise a book. Just like it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to raise a book. And you very much
Totally.
leaned into that. You trusted me and many others, even when things weren't going very well, despite the journey's ups and downs. You really pushed through and just tried to get the right help. And I just appreciate that about you, man. But with that, bro, I really want to get into the book. I really want to get into the meat of things. The book is called The Midlife Shift.
Right.
Something I feel like many of us, I'm coming up on, turning 40, and I'm already feeling a huge shift in my life. So
Hmm.
honestly, following your work, following your Substack, getting those emails for the past, year and a half plus has been really helpful. It's helped me see my potential future and how I can navigate the challenges ahead. But I want to know, writing a memoir is, of course, a deep, personal, and often very challenging, path. What was the hardest part of revisiting certain memories of life stages as you wrote your book?
I mean, yes. So a lot of because it's such a personal top. That's why memoirs are difficult, because they're very personal. You're trying to sort of uncover layers of emotions that are hidden. It's not something that's just on the surface. So when you start digging deeper, I mean, you're digging in a deeper hurt as well. So, like, in various stages of my life where I had some bad experiences, that was quite tough, sort of, to bring out uh, into onto the book. And the other difficult area, of course, is one that it's to be completely honest and to be authentic, because you don't want a lot of feedback I've already got from the book is that man, you're like crazy, the stuff that you've buried, like why would you do that in the world? And because I wanted to really give the true honest account of what happened to me. And if you read the book from start to finish, there's no Hollywood story. There's not that I've become a hero, superhero all of a sudden. It's just that I've gone through several stages, several experiences, and a lot of them have been failures, and from that sort of I've grown. So there's a lot of vulnerability in my writing, in my and that is not easy. I mean, I know it's very cliche to say be vulnerable and all that, but at the end of the day, if you want to really do it, it is hard, because you're telling the whole world, you're showing the whole world the mistakes that you've made. You're telling the whole world that, hey, I've messed up again and again and again and again, but I am human at the end of the day. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I feel is very challenging. If you want to write a good memoir, that is obviously, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I can't agree more. I mean, I think that's why I wanted to ask that question, because it's very difficult, not because it's hard to write. It's very difficult because it's very emotional,
Right.
and you're kind of stripping layers and layers off of your body and showing the world lots of scars, lots of emotions. And so sometimes it's even harder, especially if you're still going through something. I found that writing my book was also healing. So it's kind of like almost like doing surgery,
Yeah.
going back and stitching the wounds almost. So because you don't want to write from an open wound, you want to show that scar, which is interesting.
And what's also interesting, a lot of the times we don't know the answer to many things, and when you write and when you dig deep, you start getting more clarity. I was
Yes.
several stages in my life in the book. You'll see that I'm explaining something, and when I did explain it in the past, then I understood why this happened. So that
Mm,
was quite revelation for me. I mean, that was
yeah.
amazing, because
Yes. I can't
when you're
agree
in
more.
deep writing and really focused, and you're editing, and that means you're just going readdressing the issues. So it's really therapeutic, as you said, to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't agree more. It's very therapeutic, cathartic almost, and
Cathartic is the right word. Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
and you're right. There's dots being connected that you never thought connected, and like it kind of makes sense why what happened and what led to things or certain behaviors. But you're right. It's the going back over and over in the editing process
Mhm.
and rewriting that you discover so many deep layers of those stories that you thought you knew very well, or like the memory of that story serves only one perspective. And I think writing it gives you a whole different perspective, a whole different sort of empathy.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll give you an example, just to explain this point, because when I was a kid, around when we were 10 years old, there was a coup d'etat in Ghana, meaning military ruler took over the country, kicked out the government, and they started persecuting like a lot of foreign-owned businesses. And my father was affected, so we had to really, like, he had to move us to England. So I
Oh,
was 10 years old, moving from a warm, very lovely, like very country that's not so developed, going to London, which is much cold. The people are not very nice. Like, it's a city
yeah.
and people are not very nice. And so automatically I developed a shield, and I became like at 10 years old, I had to become a man, because I went to school. I was being bullied because my accent was not perfect. It wasn't completely English, and I had
Right.
to. I was a foreigner in England. It wasn't easy those days, so
Yeah.
immediately I had to develop a very tough exterior.
Yeah.
So when I was writing all that down, that came out because I was explaining how I had a lot of anger issues afterwards, and I was sort of, I was in a way a bully as well, because I was very controlling, wanted my way. So that all came
Yeah.
from that revelation that I was bullied before. I had to be tough. That's the only language I understood. So that
Mm,
really helped me understand uh, why I became so controlling.
yeah. That's so fascinating, man, because it's interesting what our environment does to us, right? We either
Yes.
shield and really protect ourselves. And that was like, I mean, I think, if you look back, it's kind of like a protective mechanism,
Mhm.
right? It's like, well, if I'm a bully, if I'm behaving this way, no one's going to mess with me. No one's going to
Right.
attack me. And I can sort of protect myself from these things. And it's very challenging. I mean, I grew up in America, very similar to you. I got to come here when I was like 8 after the
Mhm.
Gulf War. And so as I was reading this book, I also found bits and pieces of sort of my story just in a different light. Um, and it was, yeah, like I had to grow up with this feeling of you know, I need to basically over protect myself from all of these
Right.
things. And the way I did it was people pleasing. So,
Mhm.
I just wanted to make sure I have friends that, people protect, like padded layers. Of course, all my siblings experienced that differently as well. And
Right.
as I wrote my book, I extracted a lot of like, oh man, my behavior really
Mhm.
stems from these moments in time where you're implanted in a different environment and you have to kind of grow differently. And that was really powerful. um, in your book you write, this was a really interesting time. You wrote, I had become enslaved not by a person or a giant corporation, but by striving for money, prestige, and success. The realization must have been really powerful for you, because I know for me it has been. How did you begin to break free from these societal pressures? Because I think this is something everyone struggles with. And what advice would you give to those who
Yeah,
feel
absolutely.
like they're
And as you already said, we're all conditioned by our upbringing and our environment, and our not our own ideals. That's the sad part, and sometimes not even often our parents' ideals, but it's this societal ideals that have conformed to tell us this is the right formula, this is the right way. So for me, it was very difficult, and I would say I'm still in it. I have one. Sometimes I have a foot in it, and I always try to ground myself, remind myself that I'm not that person. But the game for me when I was growing up was to make money, climb up the social status ladder, and to really enjoy making that money, taking care of your family, obviously, and all that. And it came to a time where I felt like, okay, if you buy one car and two cars, or buy one watch and two watches, there's some kind of emptiness. And it sort of hit me, and I didn't understand it at that time, because what was the biggest problem for me was everybody around me was playing this game, and they were enjoying, they were okay. I just didn't feel I wasn't okay, and I didn't have any answers for it till a few things happened that I've already written in the book. A few incidents. I nearly went bankrupt. My nephew went into a near fatal accident. So these things made me, always these kind of like moments of despair that let you start thinking and reflecting. I started reflecting, are these really the values that I want to have? And I didn't get any answers quickly, but slowly it unraveled to me that my values are not really money, prestige, and success symbol, but rather it was more creativity, being self-expression, my own self-expression. I wanted to, my voice, I wasn't heard, I felt, for a while. And movement as well. We can discuss that later. Anything concerning movement, whether it's exercise, running, I'm playing paddle. It's a racket game now at my age, and I always feel like these things are a part of your self-expression. You need to really self-express, which I couldn't do. So my values have changed. The old ones don't serve me anymore. But every now and then I get sucked into doing or falling back onto these old values. I have to remind myself and have some practices that remind me.
Yeah.
So that's I don't know if I answered your question, but this is around the
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, I think it's less of a question and more of like a there are so many people who go through this, especially in the West, right? Even in the West, like, I mean, obviously it happens everywhere in the world where we get this pressure, external pressure to succeed, and whatever that means, right? Especially with our parents coming from, or to those out there whose parents come from a little bit more impoverished areas of the world, or not as many opportunities, right? Where you can start a business, go to school, education. There's a layer of pressure that, and to them, it's more like succeed to take advantage of the opportunities, and also to help yourself, financially be okay, so that you can take care of your family, because they went through hardships that, of course, they don't want you to go through. Absolutely. And then not only that, there's also societal pressures that also tell you, what they're going through is the same thing you're going through, and that's not necessarily true, and you can still find your success with what I feel like societal success is, as far as like having a home, having a car, life, just living comfortably, but also doing the things that you want to do, which is self-expression, which is art, creativity. For me, that's everything. So how did you get into writing? Because I feel like that was your mechanism that really started changing things for you. At what age were you kind of starting to get there?
That's a good question, because it's I'm a very late bloomer, not even a late bloomer, because I remember once we were invited to a party, and after a few drinks, you start playing these question games like, what would you want to be in an alternative life? And I mean, I just blurted out, I would love to be a writer. I would love to be a writer. And that just went away. And I don't know, a few years later, I found myself reading. I was reading like a book a week, and I would be taking notes, reading. And then I went through Julia Cameron's book, The Morning Pages, where you journal 3 pages every morning for 30 minutes. And one thing led to another. You know what I said? I started writing. I just felt this enormous, like, okay, they call it flow or something. It's or run writer's high or whatever. But every time I would write, I would feel amazing, like I'm on top of the world. And I then I said, you know what? It's not only enough for me. I want my voice to be heard. I don't want to be writing on my own, just my own diary. So I wrote a few articles and sent them to some of the publications, Elephant Journal, Rebel Society, and they accepted to actually to post the blogs. And so one thing led to another, and I realized that really that writing, as you said very well, is the center for me to self-express. I'm not the type, like, you're a great talker, man. You can go anywhere and you talk. You're not really, you communicate very well. And for me, as if there's a book, an empty book or a laptop that's empty, and my true feelings come out. I can say what I want to say, and I can dig deeper. I can reflect. So when I understood that part, I said, writing is for me. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. When we find our thing, whatever it may be, it's as if we discovered life again. And I think I really sense that even in, you this is your third book, am I right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I believe, like, even having read your last one, I can sense even more strength, more depth, more honesty. Not that your last one wasn't honest, but like just more of you just really bringing your full self to this writing. And I love that. And I think that is it's like everything else we get good at, right? At better crafting our words and articulating our words. And yeah, you're right. Like for me, I've been very blessed to have grown up with a father who's an artist and a performer. And so I love getting on stage and speaking. I love talking with people and being social. And I love painting and art. But writing has always been something I've been afraid of, right? Thinking, especially learning English, I'm like, I'm not a good writer. I've always told myself I wasn't a good writer. But when I wrote my book, that changed because, like you said, like there's a level of understanding yourself. There's a level of really connecting the dots, and that there's something beautiful about writing. And you don't have to be a great writer. I think it's just the fact of like just writing like you talk, just speaking to the pages. I love that. And I felt a lot of that you just felt like you weren't pressuring what I would understand. You're merely telling the stories. And I thought that was really powerful throughout your writing.
Thank you.
I do want to ask you about this. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, thanks. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, writing is powerful.
Yeah, man. So you go through some hard times. You kind of figure out, like, okay, chasing the money, chasing growing the just business and all these things, to kind of making this shift, if you will, into a more deeper, more meaningful, more thoughtful, intentional lifestyle. And that's always hard. That's always hard for pretty much anybody. But I think what's really interesting is you use that leverage and lever of like, well, why do I have to just think about being a writer? What do I need to do to actually become a writer? And it was like that moment of like, I'm going to write and submit my writing to somewhere and show myself, essentially. And can you talk a little bit about that shift of like going from I want to be to I am, and how that helped you?
I mean, the only thing I would say for anyone listening, that the advantage I had was I was in my 40s, so I did have confidence in building a business, and I'm a father, and so maybe that sort of gave me an advantage. Like if I wanna try something, I'm gonna go and do it. I'm not gonna hide behind something. I'm just speaking to the people who are maybe younger and haven't had any success yet. So it's going to be harder for them to maybe say, I want to become a writer. But even with me, I went through a lot of self-help books. I met some gurus, whether it's Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins. So I felt like I was on a trajectory all along that I wanted. It was deep within me. I wanted sort of to change my life. I wanted to do something that is for me, that is that is unique to me. You know, that was the driving force. And I also understood the concept that yes, I can write, but I'm not a great writer. I need to learn how to write as well. It's a craft, as you said. So I did a lot of courses, which gave me a lot of confidence. I joined programs online. I went to Paris for a month, did a course there. I then started MFA. I've done 1 year of an MFA creative writing program. So I feel like all these things really help make me become a writer. And I wrote once an article which did quite well. It's the marination of the mind, in a way. Like my mind was marinated. They say if you want to learn French, the quickest way is to go to Paris, right? You can go on Duolingo, you can have a teacher every day. It's not going to be as effective as living in a country where they speak French. So I marinated my mind with writing courses, teachers around me, the writing world. Every time I write a book, I do that, so that I just keep in touch. And it's and again, for me, because I'm so entrenched in the business world, and all my friends that I grew up with are not in this creative field, so it's hard. So I need to do that shift every time I get into the writing mode.
Yeah. I love that, man. And I think there's a power in that, right? Even though the people that you're surrounded by, you know, your friends and people you grew up with, that you do business with, you know, even though they're not practicing a creative outlet, if you will, maybe they are in their own right, you know, whatever that may be for them. What's interesting is I feel like practicing something like writing or painting or, you know, again, an art of some sort of expression, you know, again, whatever it may be, you do kind of have to sort of envelop yourself in that world. Like, you didn't just say, I want to be a writer, and then you said, I am a writer, and then you just started writing. The I am is really the transition into enveloping yourself with a whole new set of new people, new friends, new techniques, new people that you have to kind of go seek out, right? Because they're not going to, like, Bob Proctor isn't coming in to find you, right? They may find you through a YouTube video, but like you being in their presence is a different energy. You know, you going to a seminar where we met, the writing workshop, like that is you intentionally putting money, resources, time and energy into that thing. So what you get out of it is, of course, the becoming, the I am version of writing or writer. And you know, you did such a great job on not just saying I am, but like you also, you know, you have this Substack, you have this blog, you have a following, you're committed to it. It's consistent. It's I don't care what anybody says. Like, it's arduous to make sure that you really show up not only for yourself, but other people who follow your writing. Like for me, I look forward to your weekly newsletter, because there's something always in it that that's like a good reminder for me, you know. And I think as humans, we tend to forget a lot, you know, and I think that's the beauty of having so many people in your life. It's the constant reminders that we need to stay the path, to stay the course, to believe in your service or your product or yourself. And I love that about your work, man. And you described this intense moment in one part of your book. You said, I had to allow my inner voice the full freedom of expression that it was seeking. For you, writing the memoir was part of it was self-expression. But how did you putting your story into these words help you find and sort of like amplify that inner voice?
I think the problem is which we don't understand till we understand, is that we all have an inner voice, right? The only problem for us is we can't hear the inner voice because we have so much noise around us. That's the biggest issue. And it's so much worse these days with the social media, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. So we don't have time on our own to hear our own voice. We're not quiet enough to actually hear it. So bringing out your inner voice is all about you sort of cutting out all the noise that attacks you or comes through you, and allowing the music to hear the actual music that you need to hear. Whether it's sometimes things that really don't like, you get into ego battles, whether at work or whether with friends or family, that's noise. You go to the news, things that affect you, that's noise. It's all taken away from your energy. It's all taken away from your focus. It's all taken away from actually digging deep into that inner part of you. So I think that the trick to the inner voice is there. We just have to remove all the obstacles that are in its way, and then it comes out. And I do certain routines that help me in the morning. I get up early. I'm an early riser. 5:30 I'm up. The first thing I do is sometimes I meditate. I'm not a great meditator. Sometimes I don't. But reading, I have to read 30 minutes every day, whether it's fiction, poetry, whatever it is. I need to read, and that sort of puts my state my mind in a state of flow. Then I journal for about 15-20 minutes, and that's when I can. That's where I can see or hear my inner voice. And sometimes I get an idea for a book, for a blog, an idea for my work, an idea for my business, whatever it is. So that's the kind of practices that I do to develop or to allow my inner voice to be heard.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And even just right there, you said you don't necessarily develop your inner voice. It's there. It knows what it wants. It's connected to a higher source. I feel like a higher being, universe, whatever you want to call it. But like, I think there is a higher power to our voice. But the power comes from de-escalating, creating places where we can go to a place of quiet. And the power of that voice really starts to ruminate, and you want to find places that are quiet. You want to cut as many distractions as you can, especially when you really tune into that voice and how it helps you illuminate sort of the path forward of your life. And you did such a good job talking about those things, about how important, and even again, for your business, for your life, for your relationship, that voice is there to guide you. It's almost like a narrator. But if you are constantly bombarded by everything around you, drama, life, television, Netflix, it never ends, right? There's so many distractions that cut that noise. And then you start to believe that you don't even have that voice. You start to believe that your compass is going around in a circle. It doesn't guide you anywhere. And I think that's where I find a lot of people struggle. Yeah.
And exactly, and even with me, I've become self-aware of my inner voice, but I've also lost it. Even a few years down the line, I was under so much pressure at work. You lose that voice. You have to rekindle it again and again. Just on that note, I'd like to read Rumi's quote, because it's one of the quotes I've got posted in front of my desk. Rumi says, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." And here you can substitute love for inner voice, or whatever you want. So that's beautiful, right? Yeah.
So beautiful. I love that so much. And he's so right. It's that internal battle of constantly removing the barriers that sometimes, honestly, let's be real here. You may have not put those resistant things in there. You may have put them in when you were younger, or didn't understand that you had an inner voice to begin with, or an inner, monologue, if you will, inner story. And then it becomes the hard journey of, removing that and realizing and unlearning the things that are in the way, and unlearning the things that you were taught that don't necessarily serve you anymore. Or perhaps what we were talking about in the beginning, there are so many mechanisms that we put into place to protect ourselves when we're younger. And we don't even know that we're doing that. It's our mind that's so powerful that it does that. And now it's our job to sort of train the mind. And retrain it out of that. It's really powerful.
Yeah, because some of them don't serve us anymore. So we need to examine and see what to do with them.
Yeah. So you have this amazing Substack, and it's sort of like your blog, your newsletter, which I love so much. So if anyone out there wants to follow Mo, and of course get the book, go to mo-issa.com and get his book. But also you can follow him on the Midlife Bliss, which I love so much, because again, this is a transition that I'm going through personally. So this is why I love having you on and talking about these things. But it's really helped me see things a little bit differently, man. And I just want to share that with people today. Like, if you are out there And, whether you're trying to express yourself, learn something new, you're an author, you want to be an author, any of that stuff, you're sort of in this midlife balancing, trying to figure out what to do. Follow Mo, The Midlife Bliss. I promise you, it's so good. It's full of this amazing poetry, insights, deep thought, but also very lighthearted and very meaningful. And I love that. Mo, can we talk a little bit about, you talk about this, you describe an intense moment of introspection when you ask yourself, what if living authentically didn't mean worrying about what people thought of my life, but instead what my heart thought was true? How did answering this question shape the way you approach your relationships, your career, and of course your personal values? Because this is a huge one, man, for everyone. What people think of me, especially in our Middle Eastern culture, I believe I grew up with that a lot.
Yeah.
How did this unfold
I
for
mean,
you?
this I write in the book. My whole questioning started by reading a book by Tolstoy, The Death of Ivan Ilyich, where he lays down dying, and on his deathbed he asks, "Have I lived all my life in the wrong way?" And then he smiles and he dies because he realizes that he actually became self-aware that he didn't live the right way and he died, but at least he was self-aware that for just a moment. And he was a person who I saw a lot of parallels with me because he was a successful lawyer, became like a judge, and he was very in the society. He was pleasing his wife, his family, society. So I saw a lot of parallels, and it made me question my values, which we spoke of before. And that comes to the question, like, why, like you just asked now, I asked myself, like, what does it mean if I stop thinking about what people said or cared about? Because what do people really care in our society, or mine at least, maybe probably similar to yours? They look at the cars, they look at the homes, they look at people bragging about their bank accounts, the Rolex watches that they have on their hands, and if you get stuck in, it's a game, and you get really stuck into it. Like, I need to get the new Rolex, and I need to get a bigger house, and while the reality is, all you have to do is really cut your spending and live a more meaningful life. And it's a much, like, spend more time with your family, spend more time with your friends. There's no need to be running and striving all your life. And when you cut your expenses, you don't need to increase your income as well, right? It works the other way around. So that was a big realization for me. Like, instead of running, all I did was run. I didn't even have time to enjoy my kids when they were growing up. They didn't have time to enjoy their growing up as well. They were going from event to event as well, like most families. So bottom line is, why don't we just slow down, stop the running, instead just sort of walk and really become a bit more mindful in life. And again, that's a goal. It's not something that I've done. I press a button and became like that. That's a goal that I'm working towards. And every day I feel it. The closer I get to it, the happier I become, I feel.
Yeah, I love that, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very beautiful, it's sort of like taking the scenic route and coming off the highway, right? And you just get to
absolutely.
enjoy it a little bit more, man. Because, I always, like, when we're young, we are rushing to get older for whatever reason, right? And when we're older, we're faced with so many responsibilities that we kind of wish we were young again when we didn't have those responsibilities.
Mm,
But I really think the beautiful balance is, instead of rushing to get old for less responsibilities, it's being intentional about what responsibilities you really want to take on and if they matter to you. Because, becoming an architect was really important for my father.
yeah,
Keyword, for my father, right? As much as
exactly.
I love him and respect him, because to him, back home, that was a representation, right? An image of,
Yes.
like, I'm doing okay, like I'm taking
Yeah.
care of my family, all these things. But at the end of the day, that is not what I came to Earth for, right? Like, my soul is, a lot of ways, I'm still sort of in that discovery, which is great, because in that discovery, there's moments of reservation, there's moments of introspection, there's moments of working really hard, there's moments, right? It's not all at the same time, but one after the other. And I think that's been the best way for me to enjoy my life, I guess, as much as I can. And I'm, I would say that I sadly am a workaholic, and your work really helps me take a step back and realize that, quality time, listening, just listening to my friends and family and my wife, being in the moment is a challenge. And I have to work on that, because if I really want to be intentional about realizing my full potential in life, you have to be here. You have to be here now, because you need to experience what's happening and not avoid it, and run. Because I feel like sometimes we don't talk about this, right? We all don't talk about this. We don't believe that like work is a form of an addiction as well.
Absolutely. And then you feel guilty when you start working. That's another challenge you'll have. The minute you start, that's how I went through it. So I start feeling guilty because I'm working less. But the reality is I'm working better, because it's not less. I've created a team. I've done a setup that allows me to do all that. And when I heard less is more, the famous line of less is more, I would scoff at it. Like, what? How silly is that?
Yeah.
But now I truly appreciate it, because the power of less is more means you're going deeper. And for me, deep is more meaningful. It's as simple as that. I'm 56. I play bigger games now. I'm not going to play the same game I played at 35 or at 45.
Yeah, I love that. Also, you don't look 56, bro. I thought you were a little bit younger than that. Mo, I remember recently your amazing father passed, and you wrote this beautiful quote that he loved so much, from Imam Ali, and I think we share that. One of my favorite quotes for Imam Ali, and I'm getting ready to paint it, is silence is the garden of thought. And I think every time I read your stuff, it reminds me of this quote. And so you've inspired this new painting I want to start. And it's so beautiful, because you're right. Taking time to be silent can create this garden of so many great things. And, with all due respect to your amazing father, like you embody a lot of the characteristics that you shared about him. And I appreciate that, man, so much, because I had a very deep connection with my own father. And I think they're both, inshallah, sipping tea together up there somewhere. Yeah, man, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for writing your book, putting your heart into it, and making sure that it comes out to this world, because you, of all people that I know in the author world, have faced so many struggles with getting this book out into the world. And I commend your resilience. It's very empowering, very beautiful to see. But on that note, is there anything else you want to share? I know I want to get people to go get your book right now. It's called The Midlife Shift. You can go get it at mo-issa.com or on Amazon. But on that, Mo, do you want to add anything else?
No, thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. And as you said, it's been 7 years since I started writing the first chapter. And one thing through another, I got through it. A lot of help from the writing world. One of my writing coaches as well, that helped me a lot. So thanks to all of them. And thanks for offering me to your listenership, and hopefully you go buy the book and enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely, brother. Mo, again, man, I can't thank you enough for your brotherhood and friendship. This has been awesome. I hope you guys have enjoyed the episode. Please go get the book. I'm telling you, it's really good, well written, just a beautiful story altogether. And it helps you realize just where you are, not only where you want to be, where you've been, but where you are matters probably the most. And Mo does an incredible job of bringing that, not only through his book, but through you as well. On that note, thank you so much, Mo-issa. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.